Welcome, travelers. I'm Lee Wanika of Tabletop Journeys, and this is On the Right Path. Welcome back and welcome, travelers, to Season 2 of On the Right Path. I'm your host, Lee Wanika, and I am a storyteller, GM, and lifelong fan of games, creators, and all the wonderful things that make our hobby legendary. For our first episode of the new season, we're going to sit down with friend of the show, artist, game designer, and fellow New England convention goer, Jay Mooers. Jay's here tonight to talk about his latest project, which is live on Kickstarter right now. Fae Courts is a miniature skirmish game where you build your own troops of Fae monsters and unleash them on your rivals. It's fast, it's flexible, and it's filled with the kind of imagination that turns every tabletop into a battlefield of wonder. Now, I've already seen Fae Courts in action, and I am telling you, it is a game that will not disappoint. This is going to be one heck of a magical ride. I think it's been about a month and a half since we've seen each other at a convention or so, and
It's been too
maybe a
long.
little bit
It's
more.
just been too long.
Yeah, if it's not every third week, there's something wrong with the
Yeah,
universe.
there's something weird going on here. I don't know.
Yep. Somebody's stolen something, taken somebody's true name. I don't know what's going on, but
It's
we
something.
gotta get
Something.
that right in the world.
Somebody's blowing up the bunker or something. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. It's so good to have you back. But your first time on the right path. So one of the things that I try to do with this particular element of our overall program and channel is really nail down the different things that are fun and interesting that are going to help players and GMs get on the right path. Fae is one of those things because of its source and where it is today, and the fact that I've been part of seeing it grow all this time, and I see you all the time at conventions, so every year I see more and more of it, and I love it. Let's dive right in. Give the audience who may not have seen any of our earlier episodes links in the doobly-doo and
Check
around
out all
all
those
over
links
here.
that are popping up somewhere.
Fill in the audience and tell newcomers to the channel, kind of the history of Fae. Like, where did it start?
Sure,
How did we
sure.
get where we are?
So I will actually step back pre-game to a comic series I was working on called Autumn Gray, which I created a world in the human mortal world where Fae and monsters are in hiding. They exist in the world, but don't want people discovering them. So I started creating this lore in this universe for the comic series, and and the comic was doing very well, and I had lots of ideas. I had lots and lots of story ideas, and it takes a long time, especially when you're working by yourself, to complete a single issue of a comic. So if you have a whole story you want to tell, like say it's 10 issues, I mean that's a couple years anyway just to tell that one story.
Yeah.
Um so I was like, I wish I had a way I could tell these stories more efficiently. And then also in the world of conventions, so many people, so many shows are you just go in and you shop and you leave. And it's like I want something for people to do when they come to my table. This is before I was in gaming, but I wanted game. I wanted to have people sit down, have fun, immerse themselves in this world. It's kind of the next step. Like I've created this world, and you can sit there and read the book and get into it with the story. The next step is now you can create your own character and exist in this world. So it inevitably turned into the RPG Fae, where you play fairies and monsters hiding in the modern day human world. Um, so that was launched just over 4 years ago now.
Yep.
I have a mountain of adventures for it. I have expansions for it, lore books for it. It just keeps growing. It has a lot of followers. Sometimes it's kind of hard to even understand where it's going because I'll go to a show with people I don't know, and suddenly someone's like, "Oh yeah, we've been playing this for months," and I'm like, "What?" I mean, it's just it's odd
Yeah.
when like I don't know directly how it got there, you know?
Yeah, I still remember when you hit me up and you showed me a person who came to one show you were at who had cosplayed as one
Yes,
of the characters from the game, and you're
that
like, and this is not anybody I've ever seen before. This
that
is so
was
bizarre.
last year. That was my big wow factor last year when they walked by my table and the friend pointed out, "Oh, he has the book you're dressed as," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"What? Like you
yeah. What is
what?"
actually happening right now?
Yeah, so that was incredible. But then of course I love games. I love that phase very accessible. Like you can sit down and play with people that don't play RPGs. You don't have to spend months learning a lot of different rules in order to play it. Um, and I've fallen into the miniature game world. I play a lot of different miniature games. I love narratives with it. Like a lot of them are just like competitive, and it's like okay, yeah, you're battling. But I like it when it actually has stories and stuff like that. Um, and I was like, I should make a more accessible mini game, kind of like Fae is a more accessible TTRPG, and I should make it narrative. Like it shouldn't just be I fight you, you fight me. Let's see who wins. So I'm like, how do I do this? So my friend Manny, you know Manny, he's
Yep,
been in a lot of shows with me. But he's worked in the miniature world. He's worked for Games Workshop, TT Combat, a bunch of other ones. And he's played them since, you know, I guess back
forever.
when they had to carve them out of stone.
Yeah.
Sorry, Manny, it's an age joke, and you're not here to defend yourself, but you'd say, yeah, pretty much.
Manny, we're not far off in age, so
No, we're not. We're
I'm
really
taking that
not.
on the chin also.
So
But
he
yeah,
and I started dabbling in Fae and how can we convert Fae into a miniature game? And it just kind of clicked. Like we simplified the character sheet basically. I can actually show you. I have things from the game here because I had a feeling
yes,
maybe showing a couple things would always be helpful.
absolutely. And I'm confident that Jay's going to be kind enough to give us some first looks that we can put up on our various pages so we can show. Yeah.
So if you're already familiar with like the character sheets for Fae itself, this feels very familiar.
Yes.
It's a much simpler um, s- character sheet, but if you're familiar with one, the other one it's even easier to step into. But basically, I wanted a game where it's easy to build characters. I like building characters. Like a lot of miniature games, you pick a character, they have a ton of them to pick from, but you pick this character and that's the character. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I want this to be like as fluid as Fae. Like I want you to like make your legion. Like I had a character I played first time I finally got to play Fae instead of running it, whose name was his name was he was raised by squirrels. He was a brownie and he was very angry when he found out he's not a squirrel. Um, he was
As
a
one would
very,
be.
very violent little pixie that was very dumb. He would break things that scared him, like anything electronic, for instance. Like he would just like doesn't understand it, have to break it. But anyway, he
I
was
kind
it
of
was a
feel that. I might be even be a little called out by that comment. I mean,
but so,
as I
so I
look at
took
my cracked phone.
I took that character and I actually made him for Fae Courts. Um, and then you can have peons in the game, which are essentially they're characters on the board that are just about useless. They can band together and be a little more powerful together.
Yeah.
But I gave him a swarm of squirrels. So I had Chit and a swarm of squirrels. The whole idea of Fae Courts is that you can customize your own characters just like in Fae, except in a competitive game where, and I don't say it's a fighting game because you can fight and there usually is some fighting. That's usually how you get the edge. But there's lots of different kinds of missions. The like instead of it just being like like either trying to hold territories and slay your enemies. There's a lot of other types scenarios. One of my favorites that I came up with is called Capture the Mortals, which are essentially our NPCs that are on the board. And it's like Capture the Flag, only they actively run away from you when they see you. So you have to strategize how to trick them into running into like around the corner. But it's a competitive game, so the other team is trying to mess up your plans. It ends up being a bit of a like the strategy is like how do you get the humans and get them back without the other team messing up or killing the human that you're trying to get back to your base. I like having variety in the types of games you play with it. Like some people make their groups to be fast. And sometimes in a I punch you, you punch me scenario, the fast ones, once they get caught up to are just gonna get clobbered. But then you play something like Capture the Mortals, and being faster has its advantages. So there's always a chance. So with Fae Courts, it's miniature agnostic, which means you can use any miniatures you want. The only rule is the bases have to be the correct size for the size of the models. There are small models, medium models, and large models, and the base sizes are three very standard miniature base sizes. So you can
Yeah.
take any minis you want. You could take Monopoly pieces. You could be like the army of thimbles if you want, and just you have to put them on the bases. So just a little super
Yeah.
glue and some bases, and then there's your army of thimbles. And watch out for that wheelbarrow.
Base
Yep.
and glue. And I actually use a gels thing. I'm not, they don't sponsor me, so I'm kind of trying to cover up the names on them.
I
But,
have no idea what company that was.
yeah, well, they were two different companies, so, good luck. But one of them
Yeah,
goes,
okay.
ooh, 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 ooh. But,
Yeah, I know. I go bananas for that one.
absolutely, we don't talk about. Like gamers tend to talk about it in shops. They talk about it at conventions, but you don't see it on the interwebs very often, is cost. Unless
Mhm.
somebody's griping, right? So as a game designer myself, one of the things that I'm very cognizant of is what's the barrier of entry from a cost perspective, and making it miniature agnostic. Even when you offer some amazing minis, I can't wait to get them. I'm very excited. Even when you have them, just being able to say, but at least I could go to Michael's or whatever, again, also not sponsoring us, hashtag call your boys TTJ, and just pick up some animal pack
I
up
just bought a
and
box
slap it
of,
on a
of
base.
farm animals. I have a whole plethora of pigs. I'm like, I'm gonna
Yep.
make a group with a swarm of pigs. Maybe it'll be
Yep.
like orcs and like, and then
When
pigs.
Josh and I started doing some underwater stuff, I went out and got a couple different packs of sea creatures, and so I have a whole pod of baleen whales. I don't know what the group term for turtles is. I have turtles, I have lobsters, I have all kinds of sea creatures, but they're pretty cheap. I don't think I spent more than $10 for the whole lot of them, and it was probably closer to $7 or $8.
Well, you can buy the digital rule book, which is everything you need to be able to play the game on the Kickstarter, and it's simply $15.
Yeah.
And you get the digital rule book, and when it gets updated, when somebody finds a way to break it and I have to update it, it's great because I can just update the digital rule book and send it right out to everybody. The point of entry is $15. Take the sorry pieces out, use those. And as far as terrain and stuff goes for the game, it specifies just drop some stuff around the table. I had some people that were play testing it. They just took drink bottles and just put them around the table and like, running around those things. You can use anything. I mean, you can get it as ornate as you want, but you can keep it as simple as you want to.
Yep. And local game stores are great places to go. I know my local game store here in southeastern Connecticut, the Citadel, they have a plethora of scatter terrain and terrain that you can use at any time. Just walk in, you don't have to arrange time. It's free to do it. Just you and your group slide in, grab an open table, grab stuff off the rack and that they have in that area that you can use and throw up some terrain. I do it all the time, and it's such a great thing. But when we were talking about the models and the 3D models and how gorgeous they are, I'll be putting up pictures certainly on our Discord and for our patrons so they can really get a good look at some of the good stuff you have to offer here. But tell us about the other member of your creative team and what they brought to the project.
I ran into this Sam Elliott guy out of the UK, and I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I have this project. I sent them samples of my artwork and I said, we'd like to make minis of fairies and monsters. I'll give you like a basic like idea of what I want, but I want you to create your own models. I'll give you the style of what the characters look like, but I want you to just have fun. And
Yeah.
actually, the first model he made, he was excited, but he was also doesn't like you don't really know until you actually do it. Like what when somebody says just have fun, like like how serious they are. I was serious. Like I'm like, I want you to just have
Yeah.
fun. Like make 3D models. So this was the first one he made. Let's see if I can get it up in the camera here.
All right. Oh, oh, that's my Malgwe.
That's the Mogwai. He's upside down carrying a turkey.
I love it. I
So
love it.
he did that and goes, does this work? And I'm like, that is perfect. So from that point on, like that was like the test run. Um, Now if I just reach out to him like, hey, I need this, like he'll get it done nice and quick for me. He's a great guy. He loves the game. I'll probably go like crash at his place and go do some conventions out in the UK in the future. So Sam Elliott, who ended up becoming the third member of our entourage on this project, I was worried that I was going to end up having to learn 3D modeling. And as much as I kind of want to, I have so much on my plate that I need to start having other people doing stuff. I have a couple people that are writing adventures for Fae now, and I'm going to find other artists to team up with them. So it can be one of those things where I don't have to produce everything for the game the whole time. I'm hoping to get other people involved. So obviously with this game, the last with Fae, I had a guest artist do some work for it, but it was,
Yep.
and this one here is probably 75% me. But it feels good having a team, you know?
Well, having other people to work with, and this is coming from a content creator who has done some work, at least as far as the writing piece, 100% alone. I always feel I write better when I'm in a writer's room. I do my best work when I'm bouncing ideas off of somebody. Hey,
Yep.
I was thinking about this. Does this work? And then get their thoughts with the expectation of being challenged or being able to challenge my co-writers or the people I'm working with, the team I'm working with. I think that always produces better work in general, at least for me. And I honestly feel more comfortable with it. Some of it is that whole how do I manage life and this creative endeavor all by myself? That's overwhelming for my ADHD mind. So having another person is also another way to keep me eye on the prize. It's not just me working for me, it's me working with a team.
When I first started working on Autumn Gray, I had a friend of mine who was also getting into comics, and we would meet once a week online, and we would tell each other what we were going to have next time, and it would motivate us both to get things done. Because otherwise, well, you get those projects. I have a whole bookshelf full of projects that are maybe someday going to be something. They're all
Oh yeah.
there, but it's like you need I don't know, I'm at the point now where if I make something like I'm using it somewhere, like even if I doodle something in my sketchbook, I'm always or
It has to be
I
used.
I do sketch cards for people, and I'm like even now I'm like, well, I'm gonna need some portraits for this mo adventure module, so I'm gonna draw the portraits as the sketch cards, and then I can use them in my game. It's like I'm
Yeah.
constantly like trying to
Yeah.
fulfill so many different projects as
As
efficiently as
as
possible.
absolutely. If you go to the Kickstarter, it's described as being easy to learn, hard to master. I love that quote. It's like the goal. It's the holy grail of gaming, right? You want to be able to pick it up so you feel like you know what you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about the game flow, how it works,
Sure.
why the skirmish scale that you're using as far as number of figs that a player might land on a table?
Okay. So in general, parties of eight is basically what I'm starting with. So you can play with more models, you can play with less models. The whole idea is that there are four different ranks of models on the board. You have your noble, who is the most powerful character on the board. It's basically your general, but you're not like a war army. But you have your noble, who's the end all be all, most powerful, most dangerous character on the board. Downside is the noble doing any tasks on the board is beneath them. So they cannot do things like picking up objectives. They don't, that's what you're for. That's what the workers are for. They're there to look magnificent and do magnificent things. So you have your noble. Then you have your what's called your favorite, who is your second in command. You could have multiple favorites, but it would be one of those things where like I want to have two favorites on my team, so my opponent will have two favorites on their team. Um, but favorite is your next most powerful. Favorite is kind of the one in charge of doing stuff on the board. As much as your noble is using the most powerful abilities and causing environmental effects across the board and stuff, your favorite is in charge of the task. Your
Yeah.
favorite is there with the next one tier down, which are your lackeys, which are your soldiers. They have a little bit of extra powers, but their stats are pretty good and they can take a couple of hits before they drop. But they are your regular foot soldiers or flying soldiers or squirming soldiers, whatever kind of
Yeah,
creatures
you
you're
know.
using. But they are your standard characters on the board. And then I briefly mentioned the squirrels. There are also peons. Peons are pretty much useless on their own. They're great to get in the way. You can basically send them running all over the board to interfere, to block paths, all the kind of stuff. But they can get squished. They if they link together, their stats get better. They almost you could take up to six of them and make like one character that's six peons all. It is actually pretty dangerous once it's up to six. So obviously, if it's starting to gather, if your enemy is starting to gather their peons somewhere, you want to start offing some of them to try to like minimize how dangerous they're going to get. But those are essentially the four tiers. What you do is before you start any game, you just agree to whatever the count is. Like a typical the sets that I have with the game, you have your noble, your favorite, and six lackeys. So eight models on the board. Another typical one is a noble, a favorite, four lackeys, and four or six peons. It's more minis on the board, but lackeys are far more powerful than peons.
Yeah.
But basically, whatever you decide when you get together with your friend, whatever you decide is your count, you just you both have the same count. So and then you build them however you'd like. One thing I've decided with this game, if you're playing multiple games with somebody, you create your character and you play whatever mission you're playing. But then afterwards, you can't change their stats, but you can change which powers they bring with them. So like if the other person is using a tactic and you couldn't deal with it, well now you can go back through your selection of abilities. You're like, well, I'm gonna take these ones this time because if he tries to do it again, I can undo it.
Yeah.
So it adds an added strategy to playing multiple games. A typical game takes about an hour once you're familiar with the game. One thing I'm going to be doing for this is I'm going to do narrative adventure packs where you team A and team B, or even three teams, or even one team. There, I want to write some that are just for a single player to play. The whole idea is you go to mission one, and if team A wins mission one, go to mission two. If team B wins mission one, then go to mission three. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure book, where in the
Yep.
course of a 4 or 5 games, say an afternoon or an evening, you can actually unveil a story, and it's different each time depending on who wins. So I
Nice.
actually have a tale. Like the first part of it is maybe trying to be the first one to go into a tomb. And then the second one, whoever won the first one gets a head start in the tomb, which means something happens to them because they got there first. And then the rest of the party comes in. I like the idea of stories.
Yeah.
I want an adventure instead of just a competition.
In my head, I'm thinking of two different parties being sent after one person in a mall. And like basically you have your play area is the mall setup,
Yep.
and one comes from the J.C. Penney's entrance and the other comes from the
The food
Sears
court.
entrance. And the food court's dead in the center but offshoot, so it's who gets there first.
Yep.
Maybe one of them convinces the Selkie to defend their flanks so that they can go after the goal and the Selkie has to fight them, or maybe they end up getting partially beat down by the Selkie, but they win. Now they're weakened, so the one that got there slower has the upper hand. Like those are the things that run through my mind. I think that would be a
Mhm,
lot of
mhm.
fun. I'm loving the concept of using all kinds of really cool and interesting modern terrain to create that setup.
One thing I've developed in Fae Courts is the Age of Enlightenment, which is referenced in the Fae game. Age of Enlightenment is essentially the end of the Dark Ages, the rise of the Renaissance. It's when the Fae mass exodus from the mortal realm. If you've read the lore, it was partially to overthrow Twilis, who was one of the most powerful Fae queens at the time, who was feeding off mortal interaction, basically. And in order to take power from her, they need to separate the Fae from the mortals. Um, so during the Age of Enlightenment, Fae left the mortal realm and were pouring back into Avalon, where there were territory disputes, suddenly like influxes of creatures that haven't been in Avalon for so long and don't know what's happened to it. So this whole conflict of trying to like find your own land and find your own place and all the power struggles that are happening because the one that had all the power has been overthrown and there are all these other factions. I also bring up the dying factions, including there's actually a faction you can play in Fae Courts for the Egyptians. Um,
Ooh.
there are still some of them around. They're not what they used to be. Same thing with the Greeks. A lot of the Greek creatures have filtered into other societies and stuff. But as far as their own culture goes, so I've written, I think, of 24 different factions that you can choose in this game. Essentially, it's about assisting you with your story when you pick one and then you build your army around it. Like it'd be kind of cool to be a group of Egyptian monsters, like ha have your peons be like a swarm of cats, you know,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff like that. It's just, I think some people that play miniature games love deep lore and love building an army in that lore. So I need to give them lore. And so that's the thing I'm working on now for the game is the lore. As I release a new faction, I'd like to release an adventure book where one person plays the faction of that book,
And
person will play any other faction they want.
yeah,
So it become so it kind of like introduces you to a story about that faction. Um, so I got do I have it up on my I don't have it up on here. I was like I could list off some, but I have the Southern African folklore, which is really interesting. Like it's not just the standard like European stuff. There's a Native American folklore, Japanese, Chinese, Hindu, a whole bunch of different
yeah.
mythologies that are basically during that time there were a lot of different religions in the world. They're all I figured the Age of Enlightenment is a great time for them to be vying for control.
I
Even
really, really like that. Behind the scenes, some of the things that I've been working on over the last year or so is finding ways to put cultural touchstones from my family history and ancestry into my work more directly. And so you'll find cultural concepts in various factions that ended in a couple of the factions specifically that ended up in the factions book that Josh and I recently published. Mostly because it was a way for me to one express myself, my ancestry, my pride in that, as well as to give something colorful and real world feel in a way that I don't think you get by just making things up whole cloth or what have you. But it's done in a way that I think provides the culture. And so those who are from the Lozi traditions will recognize those elements and feel that kinship with them. And other folks will recognize it as being probably something cool. Or if they know me well, they're like, yeah, that's how Lewanika actually is in the world as he approaches the world, kind of thing. So there's a
yeah,
lot of me that I put into those things. And I love when lore of that depth gets into a work, even if it is just to be the aesthetic, to be the flavor for the stew, so to speak. I think it because different people interact with games in different ways. And when you can provide those cultural Easter eggs, the people who need them, like them, look for them, love them, will love them incredibly and thoroughly. And the other people will witness it as, oh, this is really cool, without kind of picking up on the why it's cool.
Right,
And
right. But
that's
and the
that's
tough thing is
perfect.
there are so many.
Yeah.
I can search any town in the world and find like local folklore, things I can use in Fae. I could write a lore book for every location in the world. I'm like, oh, here's one for this place, here's one for that place,
Yep.
here's one for Boston. Here's one. It's it,
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's fascinating between the cryptids around here and like Native American stuff. And then you start looking anywhere else. I want to pay tribute to all of it. When I did my first expansion, like the original Fae book, I stuck with things people are familiar with, but
Yep.
I threw some wild cards in. There are things in there that, what is that? Like what can I play? And oh, okay. But then with Fae Forgotten, I started pulling from the B list basically. And I love
Yep.
it. I love that stuff. And it just it keeps I could hop on Google in 3 seconds. I could find enough to like make another whole book.
There's a great series on YouTube that's just about the gods and goddesses of culture X. And it's 20-minute videos
X1.
where they
Yep.
do some they show
I've seen it.
pictures and
I've
talk
seen it.
about each of those. I have watched quite a lot of them because I
Yep.
find them to be remarkably informative as far as how to build cultures in an interesting and true way, not to the appropriation kind of way, but in the let's build a culture that does these types of things and what that says about the culture. I need X, so what does that look like? Here's a culture that also did X, so here's the way they talked about their deities or how they interacted with their natural world and deified them, deified it, or what have you. So like I love that concept. That's like brilliant. So we're kind of getting towards the end. You hit one of my questions quite naturally. What's the game time looking like? So you really did that really well. So I'm just going to go right to my two closing questions. So you answer them in any order you wish. But the first of the closing questions is going to be tell us anything and everything you want to tell us about the Kickstarter, where you're at, and what to do with that so our audience knows where to go. That's your call to action question. And the other thing is, this is just something that I'm interested in, is Faye started with a comic book. It then became a game and became a TTRPG game. And now it's moving into that mini space. What's the next evolution? What's the next itch that Jay's going to scratch using the Faye IP? And at this point, it's an IP. You've covered multiple types of games, so it's an IP now. And if you don't have that answer, or if that answer is too secret because you're keeping that under wraps, I'm fine with that as well. But those are your two
Okay.
wrap the show questions.
So I will start with what is in the future for Fae. Fae like you said, is really it has really become an IP. I was in talks, and then COVID happened, and things went to the side burner, I guess. But I could possibly be looking at doing an actual movie in the future with a movie house that is interested in doing something quite possibly for Netflix. So that is a possibility in the future. I'm hoping other writers that are writing adventures may start writing Fae novels. And like we might actually have stories in the universe written by other people, which would be great. It'd be one of those things where I just got to look over them, make sure it fits in with the canon. We'll have a
Yep.
canon now. They got a cannon. Run.
You're gonna have to get a whole wiki page and
Oh no.
oh
I'm gonna
yeah,
need someone to manage it. What are you doing later?
this evening or this lifetime, because like I'm booked through at least 2034. No, I'm just kidding. I'm always
All
here
right,
for
so
you, Jay.
2034,
We'll
we do the
talk.
wiki. Got it. Okay.
2034, we do the wiki. All right,
Okay.
excellent.
All right, so Kickstarter. So the Kickstarter is not going as well as I had hoped right off the bat here. A lot of people were interested, but I don't know if the current financial climate is making people hang on to their purses a little tighter. I was hoping for a bigger jump on day one. I did well on day one, but not as well as I'd hoped, and then it really slowed right down right after day one. I'm in the process of trying to reach out to a lot of the people that play Fae, and I'm trying to explain to them like this is another way you can do Fae. And instead of having everyone at the table playing a party together. You make your own party, and then you can just get together with one friend. No one has to be the game master, and you can
Yep.
play Fae. I mean, you can play a 1 hour session, or you can play a whole narrative if you want. I know a lot of miniature games are very hard to get into. People think D&D is hard to get into. Try 40K or something. It is a cliff that you have to scale for quite a
Scale.
while before you can even start playing it. That's why I wanted this to be something that you can, if you can figure out Monopoly, this you can figure this out easily.
Yeah.
Just start playing.
I would
But so
say, and not using the same kind of rules in any way, but similar to HeroClix. Like honestly, open it up, and sit down and play. And with the
yeah.
added information that our audience gets tonight, and that I've picked up tonight, which is, hey, it's the digital rule book. Use whatever you want to play the game. It's a $15 to get going kind of thing. I would also add, because I utilize this a lot when I do crowdfunding as a consumer of crowdfunding campaigns, generally speaking, there are, and obviously your mileage may vary, there are things involved, and obviously do what works best for your financial situation. But in many cases, there's pay in installments and
Yep, and
that
I have
can,
that set up there. You can pay in
yeah.
installments if
So,
you want to get the whole enchilada. I will state here, just so everybody knows, whether or not the Kickstarter is funded, Fae Courts is happening. I am fully intending on it rolling out at the same time with or without the Kickstarter support. It has a fairly high goal. I have a lot of added expenses with a lot of the 3D design. Obviously, printing the models costs more, packaging, because it's not just a book, So if we do not reach the Kickstarter goal, the game will still be happening. I will probably reach out to everybody who's on the Kickstarter and invite them to order their game, and I'm still going to have them out at the time that I've been promising, which I believe I'm planning on having everything shipped out to everybody by February at the latest.
okay.
So it's right around the corner. I was hoping to do it for Christmas, maybe, but I didn't want to promise that and then not fulfill it. So because I know
Yeah.
some people would be interested that way, but folks, obviously if I can get funding ahead of time, it makes it a lot easier for me to do all this. Obviously that's why you do the Kickstarter.
Yep.
Um, so right now we are about 30% there, which it's only been up for 4 days, so that's not bad. I am going to be releasing some added bonuses for the game. I had a couple of stretch goals that I think I'm going to release anyway. They're things that I already have. I've just been saving them, but I may release them during the Kickstarter just to get more buzz going. I am always horribly stressed out during a Kickstarter unless I get to like 80% right off the bat.
Yep.
But this is not there, and it's very stressful, and I go through the roller coaster of emotions all day long, every day. I do a lot of other things to try to keep my mind off of it because there's only so much I can do. But it's happening. Fae Courts next year when you come out to Captain Con, I should have a stack of Fae Courts boxes there. I'm going to be playing it. It's happening. So whether or not the Kickstarter funds it, it is still going to happen. It just, like I said, it's a lot easier when I can go into
Yep.
production, you know,
Yeah.
and
More
send it out
bells
to
and
everybody.
whistles if we get it funded in the allotted
Yes,
time, but
yes,
it's going to be a thing no matter what. I
correct.
I I love that. And if I could say anything to the listening audience and all the people I'm going to talk to about the game, I'll just say this. I've seen the game played. I've seen people smile while they're playing it. I've seen them laugh while they're playing it. I've been jealous that I couldn't be at that table while they're playing it. And I love what you do, Jay. We've been friends for a number of years now, and I'm never not interested in Faye. And the fact that you showed me a Malgwe as your first mini, and that was how you got the mini part of it started, just warms my heart and my soul because Malgwe's rule. I need to field me a team where my Malgwe's the noble. That's just the way that's got to be.
May I throw one more thing out here, just as a little tidbit? We're working on a Rumble Royale Fate Courts game where you could have up to 24 people around the table, each playing one
Nice.
miniature,
Yeah.
and essentially you are trying to slay the boss pig. There's a giant
Nice.
monster pig that you have to lure out of the mud with apples. You're dealing with things on the board, but you're also dealing with each other because I'm going to still make it two teams.
Yeah.
So you're trying to win personally, but at least if your team wins, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
it's kind of like second place.
Malways
But
don't deal in
but
second places.
it's just going to be one of those like wacky, like how many people can we get around the table? We're going to be loud and rowdy. Like I'm going to be running pig minis all over the table and like the big boss pig, plop them in the middle. I haven't gotten the model for the big boss pig yet, but that's something I think we're going to do at Captain Con. We're just going to like round up a whole bunch of people. Like this is going to take us, 30 minutes.
Nice.
Everybody get over here. Everybody gets a character. All right, here we go. Right around the table. Here we go.
I like Captain Con. That's one of the cons that I tend to have a little bit more time at. So I might be that might be the one I get to sit down to play with.
There you go.
All right, so I'm going to wrap us up here. I just want to say thanks so much, Jay, for joining me on such short notice. I'm glad we were able to talk about the game in greater detail. I've been anxious to sit down and have the full on conversation. So this is really exciting. Folks, if you like magic, if you like lore, deep lore, if you like beautiful aesthetics and flavor for days, Fae is the game you need to be getting a hold of. And if you're at a table and you're playing Fae, I can guarantee you one thing, you're on the right path. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up tonight's episode of On the Right Path. Huge shout out to my guest, Jay Mooers, for joining me tonight and sharing the story behind Fae Courts. It's a game that proves creativity, community, and craftsmanship can evolve beautifully across mediums. If you'd like to learn more about the project yourself, head on over to Kickstarter.com and search for Fae Courts. Or click the link in the episode description below. Don't forget to back. It's going to be an amazing time. As always, travelers, if you enjoyed these conversations, don't forget, like, subscribe, ring the bell so you never miss an episode. And until next time, keep telling stories, keep rolling dice, and keep walking on the right path.